Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Mothmaker. Today we'll be going through the full beastiary of the enemies in Ultrakill. And let's start off with the husks are the manifestations of the souls of the damned, and they are sometimes combined into a mass or sometimes just one entity. And the first and the weakest of the husks that you will see throughout Ultrakill is the filth. Now, another thing I didn't mention about husks is that they are based on the value of a soul, such as its strength or its prevalence to the public, and as you can guess by the name, filth are the lowest form of husk. And their souls are too weak and unimportant to even make an entire physical body, as they're lacking arms. The next husk, though, is the stray, which is also a lesser husk like the filth. They are tall, but afraid of any danger, and will avoid close confrontations, choosing to use their energy orms formed via hell energy. Although using hell energy is a very complicated task, they have a low intelligence, and they are only able to do it via pure instinct. And the final lesser husk is the stalker, which is a form of husk that inhabits the greed layer of hell, and they are forced to carry heavy boulders up monuments to humanity's greed for eternity. Their bodies have warped to suit their fate, as their limbs have twisted and given them greater balance, and their muscles have dried up, allowing them to survive direct contact with the hot dunes of gold dust in the greed layer. But with that out of the way, we have greater husks. Greater husks are simply a stronger form of husk, and the first one we'll talk about is the schism, which is the result of two souls attempting to manifest a form in the same place, which makes the two beings combine into one mass. They are very durable, but they have poor motor control, giving them a lower accuracy with their projectile weapons. The next greater husk is soldiers, which are an augmented version of the strays we talked about earlier, that have technological implants scavenged from broken machines that channel hell energy. They have increased confidence, which makes them more aggressive, but with greater husks out of the way, we have supreme husks. And the first supreme husk we'll talk about is the corpse of King Minos, who was once the beloved ruler of the lust layer of hell, but after his death, his soul was so strong that a husk remained. But the husk is now inhabited and controlled by snake-like parasites that Minos once commanded. And the next supreme husk is the Sisyphean insurrectionists, who were an army of husks gathered by King Sisyphus to overthrow heaven and free hell. But the rebellion failed, which made the angels of heaven come down and cut off everything but the bare essentials for the insurrectionists to carry on their punishments forever. And the final supreme husk I want to talk about is the ferrymen. And the ferrymen are rare husks who are very powerful and have an extreme faith, so they are transporters of souls between the layers of hell. They wear a cloth to hide their human form that they are now ashamed of, due to its sins keeping them from getting into heaven, and they have even ripped off their skin and flesh, leaving only their bones. The holy power from their cloth also turns their skeletons into a bright blue. Each fairy can only have one ferryman though, so when a new ferryman is formed, the two must fight to the death, with the loser's skull being taken as a trophy. Now before we move on, if this video gets 10 likes, I'll make an Ultrakill lore video, but with husks out of the way, let's talk about the first of the lesser machines we'll talk about is the drone. Drones were originally built to use only non-lethal ammunition and were meant to be surveillance and security guards, but they scavenged parts from defunct machines that were good at collecting blood. They are curious by nature but have limited intelligence. And there's also the street cleaner, which was originally built to purify the tainted air of cities, but they were repurposed for expeditions into hell. But after mankind's fall, they still want to clean, so they will burn anything organic in their path. And when you talk about greater machines now, greater machines are, as you can guess, the greater of the machines. And let's start them off with the swords machine, which is a machine that scavenged and welded all of its parts together along with a sword that it can heat up to cut through almost any organic matter. An interesting thing about them too, though, is they're one of the only machines that's still able to vocalize due to them being possessive hoarders. The next greater machine is the Mind Flayer, which are rare but powerful machines, and only their top half is actually the machine, with the human body that they have being a plastic shell that serves no purpose, but they will do anything in their power to protect the shell, even destroying themselves in the process. Next, we also have the sentry, which are, as you can guess, walking sentries that dig themselves into dirt, into the ground, and fire very accurate and powerful shots. Next is the guttermen, which is one of my personal favorites in the entire beastiary of the game, because first of all, they look awesome, but also because they were built in the early parts of the Great War and were one of the first machines to use blood as a source of fuel. And they were actually powered by living people who were entombed inside them unwillingly. And along with them, we also have the gutter tank, which was a stronger, more advanced form of the guttermen. Next, after greater machines though, we've talked about supreme machines, with the first of which we'll be talking about is V2. Now V, which had an advanced outer plating that let it refuel just via contact with fuel, but it became irrelevant after peace was made throughout humanity, thus no longer making a need for V. So they made V2 using normal plating, but it was never mass produced. And the other supreme machine we'll talk about is the Earth Mover, which was a walking fortress that was used in the final part of the Great War and required both blood and solar power to function. After the war though, many humans were forced to live on their backs due to the ground becoming uninhabitable. But with supreme machines out of the way, now we need to talk about the first demon we'll talk about is everyone's favorite, the Malicious Face, also known as Maurice. Now, demons are born from the mass of hell and have stone exteriors. Demons are also more intelligent than husks, but their intellect is still limited. Now, Malicious Faces are simply floating heads that have a very good mastery of hell energy. And another lesser demon are Cerberus, who aren't the three-headed guard dogs of hell in legend, but are statue-like beings who remain dormant until provoked, and hold an energy orb to scare off intruders. The next lesser demons are idols, which are statues made of hell energy, carved by the ferryman we talked about earlier, into holy figures. And the final lesser demon we'll talk about is mannequins, which were sinners who tried to escape the violence layer of hell by going through the labyrinth at the layer's edge, but they would never escape, and they grew exhausted, then sleeping and slowly metamorphizing as they were ripped apart and their joints and bones were shattered and shoved into hollow statues, which then became the mannequins, as the sinners no longer have any control over their bodies, lying in eternal agony. There is also one greater demon, which is the Hideous Mass, which they are rare occurrences where massive amounts of hell mass are poured into a shell, causing a massive beast which overflows at the seams. And finally, there are supreme demons, which one of them is the Leviathan, which is formed from the bodies at the bottom of the river Styx, which gave up fighting and now drown eternally, eventually fused together becoming the biblical Leviathan. And the other supreme demon is the Minotaur, which is one of the oldest surviving demons and is a beast given to the old judge of hell, King Minos. But he was terrified of it and cast it into the Garden of Forking Pass, hoping it would never be seen again. The next part of the bestiary we'll talk about is the only lesser angel we've seen so far in the game is the Virtue, which is the manifestation of a soul like husks, with their manifestation value being based on their value in life, and they take on more animalistic forms, being placed lower on heaven's hierarchy than greater and supreme angels, who have more humanoid forms. So the virtues are sent down to do tasks that the other angels deem below them. And the only greater angel we know of so far is Gabriel, the judge of hell, who is the main overkeeper of hell and is beloved among many angels for his radiant personality and active nature. But after that, we have to talk about these things are enemies that cannot exactly be classified into a certain area. But the first we have is something wicked, which some people believe it might be a husk, which didn't manifest correctly because something wicked is just a cardiovascular system of a dead heart, and only one has ever been seen. There are also the flesh prisons and the flesh panopticon, which house prime souls. Speaking of which, the last enemies we are going to cover on our list are
To hold me. A visitor.
Prime souls are incredibly rare occurrences where a soul has amassed so much power that it no longer needs a vessel to manifest itself. And they are so incredibly powerful. In fact, so powerful that even the angels fear them and will do anything to prevent them from forming. And the first prime soul we see in the game is the prime soul of King Minos, king of the Lust Lair, who after the disappearance of God made the Lust Lair of hell no longer a punishment because he believed, why should you be punished for loving another? But eventually, Gabriel, judge of hell, came down to end his reign, and his kingdom crumbled. There's also Sisyphus Prime, who was forced to roll a boulder up a hill every day, all day, only for it to roll back down, but he bided his time, waiting, and once God disappeared, Sisyphus gathered an army to fight heaven, but it was a failure, as Sisyphus was beheaded by Gabriel, and his army broken up. And that's the full beastiary of Ultrakill. Thank you for watching the video. Maybe give me a cheeky like and a cheeky subscribe. And let's move on to the outro song. Hey everybody, this is my outro song. I hope that you do sing along. I'm the Moth Maker, and I make content. Please give me money. I need money. Please subscribe. I don't have a dime. I have really, really bad rhymes. Please subscribe. This is the outro song. The outro song. The outro song. This is the Moth Maker outro song. Please subscribe. I don't have a dime. If you give me a little bit of your time, maybe subscribe and give me a dime. A dime, a dime, a dime, a rhyme. I got bars from Mars. Girls go to Jupiter to get more stupider. Boys go to Mars to get more bars. That's what I'm saying. My name's not Lars. My name is Mothmaker, and I take time to make these videos, and I spit bars, rhymes, and hymes, and lots of things. So please subscribe and have a good time. Bye.